In traditional corporate sales, success is an equation. You maximize your quota, minimize your downtime, and optimize every single second for a transaction. But that equation breaks down in places like Kume. This is a densely packed agricultural village in Myanmar's last-mile economy, where neighbors live door to door, and word of mouth travels faster than any corporate memo. I traveled here to observe one of our top-performing regional sales managers. He oversaw all Upper Myanmar operations, and my job was to shadow him in the field and coach his technique. Given his high numbers, I expected to see a masterclass in aggressive pitching. I anticipated sharp closing tactics and ruthless time management. The real question was whether the rigid, highly efficient corporate playbook actually survives contact with a complex rural human network. During breakfast on our first morning, his phone rang continuously. But as I listened to call after call, I realized he wasn't pitching our product once. A customer asked for a specific, hard-to-find type of chili seed. My manager promised to hunt it down before planting season. Minutes later, he was taking notes on sourcing papaya seeds for another caller. Then, someone called for advice on an engine swap for their irrigation system. He spent valuable minutes diagnosing the mechanical compatibility of the belt-driven pump setup. I sat there calculating the lost productivity. We pay him to manage a sales territory, not to run errands for farmers. I started drafting a formal reprimand in my head about misusing company time. This exposes a core corporate reflex. We assume that any time spent with a customer that doesn't immediately advance a transaction is a liability to the bottom line. When we finally headed out to the fields, I braced myself for the usual dynamic. The approach in isolated farm operations usually means facing guarded, skeptical prospects who see you as a distraction from their daily labor. Instead, at every single house we visited, the customers greeted my manager with profound warmth. They knew we were there to sell, but the typical defensive barriers simply did not exist. He had successfully dismantled what economists call transactional identity. By solving those unrelated mechanical and agricultural problems over the phone, he proved he wasn't there solely to extract money. Those small acts of service acted as a wedge. They repositioned him from an outside vendor into an indispensable insider, fully invested in whether these farmers succeeded or failed. In a last-mile economy, these non-sales favors do not distract from the work. They are the most potent form of psychological pre-selling available. We put this to the test later that day by approaching brand-new, uncontacted prospects in the same village. A reputation built on service radiates outward from existing nodes, systematically lowering the defenses of unconnected neighbors before we even knock. Because of this, conversations were radically honest. Quick rejections saved massive pitching time, and conversions happened with zero friction, driven by localized reputation. Community trust operates as an invisible, highly efficient sales force. It bypasses traditional marketing, drastically reducing both the time and the cost of acquiring new customers. That evening during our reflection session, I completely scrapped my notes. I told him to keep doing exactly what he was doing, and I threw out my planned reprimand about wasting time. The traditional corporate model focuses on short-term extraction, yielding flat, linear growth. The last-mile reality relies on service-first loyalty, generating exponential growth. Providing genuine value outside your product's scope creates recurring loyalty that completely outpaces single transaction metrics. I wrote in my notebook that night that success in these environments relies entirely on actions that traditional managers would label as unproductive. The truth discovered in Kume is simple. Authentic service is the only currency that buys lasting trust. Whether you are sitting in a glass boardroom or standing in a rural farm, human relationships consistently grow faster and yield significantly more than any agricultural crop or business strategy.